Welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight by AudateMedia. In this interview show, you will learn how to succeed through other people's stories, challenges that they overcame, and how they are winning in this new economy. You'll learn what to do in your business, what not to do in your business, and how others are succeeding. Tune in every week to discover new stories, new businesses, and new ideas.
Welcome to the Progression Show. I'm your host, Andy Audate, and I'm super excited on this episode because I have Christoff J. Weihmann on the episode. Now, I'm excited to have Christoff here. The reason why, he's a 5-star customer experience expert working with small business owners and medium-sized businesses and giving them keys to building a 5-star customer service experience. Thank you so much for being on the show, my man. I know with this COVID stuff, man, people are like doing this.
What are you supposed to do?
I don't know, man. We don't even have a mask wall, but it's cool. We're in my home right now.
Okay.
Man, thank you so much for being on the show and on the episode.
Thank you. Well, I want to start off, if I may. I want to ring my gratitude bell. If you look at this, you can probably zoom in. It says B, ring the gratitude. And so
it's like bring
the gratitude.
Okay, sweet.
I'm ringing the gratitude bell because I'm grateful for you bringing me on to your show, for the introduction, and for what you are doing with your show and really spotlighting and helping bring out and broadcast the message for entrepreneurs and business leaders. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that, man. So, you've written, so this puts you in position of authority, right? When you write a book about giving a wow experience. I was briefly going through this book, and it's talking about creating the wow experience. Like, break that down. What does that look like as far as creating a wow experience? Is it different from when a customer comes into a retail environment and they're like, hey, thank you so much for joining us at so-and-so shop? Is that a wow experience, or is it more than that?
At the very beginning of that book, I quote Grant Cardone. And I didn't come up with this, but he did. And it's a little short paragraph, and he starts off by asking, when was the last time you had a wow experience in the last, let's say, 90 days? Mm-hmm. And for most people, the answer is going to be, let me think. Because it's not something that's common today. I mean, at least from my experience. And I think that we have lowered the expectation so much so that if they just get it right, we go, wow, they did it right, whatever it was.
Wow.
But in the past, and hopefully this is what we're aspiring to bring back, is to really, blow away your customers, really make them feel special and appreciated and valued. And it's not, to me, it's not about, having a red carpet, or in a restaurant, it's not about a white tablecloth or so-called fine dining. But to me, it's the little things. If you have a loyalty program and it's, buy 10, smoothies and you get a free one next time, well, by my 10th time, you should know who I am, right? Mm-hmm. That's real, to me, that's real loyalty, not just like, oh, he's got the card, he's stamped 10 times, but they've never said, hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so to me, in the whole area of customer service, customer experience, it's small things. And I have actually 3 points that I build everything around. Number 1 is set the tone.
Okay, set the tone.
Set the tone has to do with first impressions, has to do with how you greet people, how you answer the phone, how you answer the email. What's their first impression of you? That's going to establish how they're going to interact with you, what they expect. So
I like that.
Number 1 is set the tone. I'll just sound real quick, and then we can talk about it. Set the tone. Number 2 is read your customers.
Read them?
Yeah, read them. And read, R-E-A-D, that's a whole training that we do, which is an acronym for 4 different things: recognize, engage, adapt, adjust, and D, deliver the wow. But read your customers. Don't treat every single customer the same. And I use the example, if you've been to maybe like a bazaar or a flea market or like if you go to, say, the Bahamas. Yeah. And there's hundreds and hundreds of stalls, right? And those shopkeepers all are saying the same thing, right? Over and over again. Sir, ma'am, you want to buy this? And every single person is treated the exact same way. There's no personality. There's no individuality. And I believe it's important for us to read our customers. Every customer is different. Their expectations are different. Their desires, their goals, all of that. And so that's the second point. And then the third point is, this is a show.
This is a show.
This is a show. Okay. This is a show.
What does that mean?
Look, how did I start off? It's not just about performance, but it means that you're always on stage. People feel like they're...
When you're interacting with your customer?
Yeah. I mean, anytime, if you are the representative for your business, you're always the representative, right? So, like if somebody sees you in the store, you know, you're just out shopping, but they recognize you. Oh, that's Andy. Andy, you know, from AudateMedia. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you representing AudateMedia when when you've got your street clothes on, when you're not in the studio? Yes. This is a show.
This is a show.
You're always representing.
Yeah, I like that.
If that makes sense.
I like that. So it's more than just saying when they walk in, how are you, or when they'll get on the phone, how are you? There's actually a process. Number one, READ, and number two, there's a way to communicate, which is to have a show, have an experience,
right?
That is memorable.
That's the right word. Have an experience, right? The customer experience. So it's not just, although important it is to have steps of service. A person could actually go through a checklist and say, greeted the customer. Explain let's say, because I come from the restaurant industry and hospitality, working in hotels and restaurants. So I always like to use examples from the restaurant industry because everybody knows that. Right?
Yeah.
So we've all experienced good, bad, mediocre, and awesome experiences in the restaurant. So if I give an example like, oh yeah, I know that. So somebody could go through this checklist of 7 or 10 or however many steps of service, greeted the customer, explained the specials, asked them to order, brought out their food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if they didn't have what I call the internal components, the right attitude, mindset, energy, passion, then you could do everything right and still give crappy service.
Is that teachable to anyone?
I think it is. I think it is if they're teachable.
If they're
is it teachable if they're teachable?
So
right?
if they're open to that shift. So because you know there are people where when you hire, for example, when you hire employees, they come into the position with the basic business etiquette of how to communicate. But if they don't have that business etiquette, are you able to transform them and teach them, or is it that, hey man, if you got to have a son or you don't have it, like you got to have that je ne sais quoi or you don't have it?
I think it's all teachable. So I have what I also call the 4 pillars of wow. The first one is what I just mentioned, the internal components. Can servant heart be taught? If a person is open to it, if they know what the examples are and if they have a leader that they can follow, right? So it's not, I think, here's what I've learned is that we as humans, no matter what background, you know, politics, race, religion, culture, whatever, we are all wired to do good. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we've all done good, not just to get paid, not just for accolades, because it makes us feel good. I know that for a fact. Deep down, we all have that. Now we go through life and things happen, and so maybe we get jaded or make us a little bit more numb or rough. But I really believe that when you give people the opportunity, you train them, provide training for them, show them the way to do it, and then encourage those internal components, positivity, mindset, attitude, then they can rise to the occasion. But if you don't establish those standards, then they'll do the least thing that is required.
Okay. So let's talk, in addition to interaction with staff, let's talk about retention. What are some places or some ideas or techniques or technologies to retain clients in addition to the interaction with your staff?
Well, I think without saying it, you said it. So there's 2 types of customers. There's the external, which is what we consider our customers. Those are our customers, those people that come to our place of business, that buy our products and services, that interact with us. But our secondary, and who should actually be our primary customer, is our team, our staff, our coworkers.
So
those are your
do they come before?
They should come before. And so you asked about retention. Retention certainly has to begin with engagement. You know, there's studies that are pretty easy to find that the average American worker across all industries, the percentage of people that are what they call engaged is like less than 15%.
Well, engaged would be
meaning they care about, like they don't just show up and punch the clock like, oh my gosh, they're watching the clock. Oh, I got 6 more hours. Yeah. How's your day going? oh, just getting started, or can't complain, or so good so far. I mean, so far, like you're expecting it to not be great.
Yeah.
Compared to the engaged employee, and that doesn't matter if they're leadership, management, or first level front line, they come and they have a happy attitude. They're happy. They are, they are focused on how can I be most productive today? How can I make the day for my customer instead of this is the requirement. This is what we are meant to do.
So are you typically working top down, or are you working like front line up?
It's both.
Okay.
It has to be both.
Okay.
So when we come into an organization, a company, and yes, we do a lot with hospitality, with hotels and restaurants, but we've worked with many different types of businesses: real estate, direct sales, nonprofits, medical, you name it. Because if they have customers, then customer service training is important.
Yeah.
And people sometimes have this notion that, well, customer service should just be natural. But it's more than just being cheerful or just being positive. Like, you can have a great attitude, but if you don't have the actual training, you can be the friendliest. Like here, another example from the restaurant. You're sitting down with some people, the server comes over to take your order, and are you ready to order? Well, yes, but I have a couple questions. Then you ask a question. Is this, is there cream in that sauce? Oh, I don't know, sir. Let me go check. That's a great answer. Thank you. Any other question? Happy, cheerful, nice attitude. But they don't know their stuff.
Yeah.
Is that good customer service?
Interesting.
Let me go check for you. Well, how come you don't know?
Yeah.
Because am I the first person who's ever ordered that?
Ask that question.
And they say, well, or somebody might say, well, it's my first day.
But let's break it back before we go to the customer, because we got to, you touched on an important part. You said it's a team first before the customer. So you're saying your ideology is saying put the team first before the customer. Now I'm assuming that the reason for that is because they're the ones that's engaged in interacting with the customers.
Right.
So from a leadership standpoint, you engage with your team and get them on board. Now, let's just say, for example, we have entrepreneurs and business owners that are on this deal. Let's just say, for example, you have team members that are disengaged. So you talk about engagement so much. So what about for those that are disengaged, that are like, hey, man, I'm just punching the clock? Can you save them, or is it like you can't save them, man?
It depends.
Let's jump ship, man.
There's also another term, and then this relates to it, so I'm not answering the question, but there's also a term called actively disengaged. So those are not just the people that are showing up dragging their feet and waiting for the clock to run out the time, but they're the ones who are actively chattering, speaking ill of the company, talking about the boss. Oh, I don't believe that program's going to work. Oh, I don't like this new incentive. I don't, and so they're actively, so they have this illustration of a boat, so there are people, if you have a canoe or a large rowboat, maybe there's multiple people that are rowing. So the ones who are engaged, they're the ones rowing. Then the guy in the back is maybe steering, right? Or close to the back. Then there are people in the middle that are just like, oh, okay, here for the ride. Yeah, okay, this is good. But they're not doing anything. They're not helping the progress, but they're not trying to tip the boat. But the ones who are actively disengaged, they're going, come on.
Trying
to tip the whole thing over.
So is the ones that are just sitting there not doing anything, would that be passively disengaged?
Yeah, and I think that if they're given incentive, if they're given, people want to feel, as I said at the beginning, they want to feel, I'm telling you what you already know. Yes, I say I'm an expert and I've written a book on it, but this isn't new stuff, right? People want to know that they have value, that they're important, that what they do matters, both maybe to the company as well as to outside, right? And a lot of times people are disengaged because they don't feel that. There's a book by a guy named Patrick Lencioni, Lencioni. I don't get paid to say it. But he has a book called The 3 Signs of a Miserable Job. And one of them is exactly that. The question he asks is, at the end of the day, and this is for any worker, any employee, any team member of any type of organization, at the end of the day, how do you know if you did well, if you did a good job?
From the employee standpoint?
Yeah. I'm done with my day. Was it a good day? Now, if we go back to the restaurant industry, is it based upon, well, let me count my tips, and then, I made $200. Yeah, it was a good day. Was it because of that? It has to be more than just the pay.
So what is the measurables or the measurables in that book?
They're intangible, but they are still measurable. It's about self-esteem. It's about this word engagement incorporates a lot of different ideas. And, you know, there are oftentimes leaders that will say, well, why do I have to motivate my team? Why do I have to inspire them? They're getting paid to do a job.
How long have you been in this industry of customer experience progression?
Well, I've worked as an employee on and off for going maybe 20 years.
So your hesitation, so your experience, you know, shit, dude, I wasn't even 20 years.
When you were 3?
When I was 6 years old.
Okay.
But your experience and your hesitation led me to believe like there's something more to.
Well, you didn't use the word service. You said customer service. Now, if you had said just service, I would say
no, not that part. The employee part.
The employee training. Yeah, we're a 7-year-old company.
So can you save them though? That's what you hesitated on.
I wouldn't say the word save. I would say that there are people that it's like this. So, are you a sports fan?
No.
Okay. If you were, what would be your favorite sport?
Basketball.
Okay. So, are there players on a basketball team that are superstars?
Yeah.
And they are naturally gifted, and whether they have, you know, requirements in practice or not, they're always going to be there early. They're going to stay late. They're going to practice and do other things on their own, right?
Yeah.
So those are the A players. Are there people that are really, really good, but they need to practice a lot more? Yeah.
Probably.
And then there are people that they're not that great, but if the coach sees some talent in them, he'll take interest or she'll take interest and say, hey, Jim, listen, you have this ability, and I don't think you're applying yourself. You hear this phrase a lot. You're not applying yourself.
Yeah.
I think that directly correlates to business. If they're applying, because, you know, people have to feel, like I said, fulfilled. They have to feel that what they're doing is important. Now, if somebody's in a job that is just a job and it's not their passion, because most of it, you know, I'm sure many of your viewers and listeners are entrepreneurs, and you're a young man. I became an entrepreneur 15 years after you are this age right now, right? So I didn't even start thinking about writing my first book until I'm in my 50s. This book came out 6 years ago, and it took me 6 years to write it. So I didn't start thinking about writing a book until I was until my mid 40s.
Gotcha.
So most of the time, or for many times, people don't come into this idea of entrepreneurship or being their own boss until maybe later in life. I think you're fortunate, right? And for whatever reason, that spark came to you early. But a lot of times people think, well, I'm going to work through my job and then retire, and then I'll get to do what I love.
That's, I feel that. I feel that. And what I really took away was that analogy with the basketball as well as the boat. So you have the passively engaged, disengaged, which is the people in the middle that's like, hey man, fuck it, like whatever happens, happens. And you got the people in the front of the boat that's like pushing to get, and then you got people in the back that are working, and then you got the people that might be trying to flip the boat.
Yeah.
And it's the people, what I understood though, is the people that are trying to flip the boat, kick them off.
Yes.
Kick them off. And then the people who are passively engaged, let them know about that they're not applying themselves, and put effort to leading them to apply themselves. If not, then kick them off.
And you have to set the standards, and you have to set, so you used the word earlier, enlistment, or to enlist them, enroll, right? Mm-hmm. So in this book, The Customer Experience, every single chapter begins with the letter E. I didn't plan it like that, but after the first 4 chapters, I go, oh.
Which one, the customer experience?
Yeah. So the first chapter is about energy and emotions and why that's important. And it goes on down to empowerment. And there's one chapter in there called enlistment. And it follows empowerment. You can empower your people, meaning giving them the tools, the skills, the ability, the platform, the responsibility, the authority. But if you don't enlist them, then they have not been asked, hey, are you in? Are you in the game? Are you on the team? Are you with the program? You know who does this very well?
Who?
Politicians. Because they always are asking people, are you with us? Are you going to vote for us?
Yeah, or are you against us?
Or are you against us, right? And so I think for our team members, again, no matter what industry or organization we're with, you can provide the empowerment, but if you don't go the next step and enlist and say, hey, I need your yes. I need your yes that you are committed, that you are here and you're after the same objective as we are.
Let me ask you this, right? So in that example, I need your yes. That's good. That's some good stuff, by the way. That's some good stuff. I listen to your what you're telling me, and I take that and I apply it. And I go ahead and I present to my team and I say, hey, I need your yes. Like, you got to get on the same page with me.
Right.
And their response is this. Check this out. I'll try. I'll try.
I'll do my best.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best. And you can see, like, they detach from the eyes. They're like, I'll do my best. I'll do my best. What do you do, man? Do you keep them or you let them go? I'm trying to see, from your point of view, when do you fire?
It's case to case. But here's the thing is, it's so much easier to bring people on board than it is to get rid of them or to let them go, right?
Uh-huh.
And we have different laws in the United States that are, they vary from state to state as to if they can be fired without cause or whatever reason. And also I think that our culture is a little bit different today. When I was young and I had my first job, and I was 15, 16 years old, I know as a teenager we think we know everything. Mm-hmm. But I never carried that into the workplace. Maybe that's when you're like rebelling against your parents.
Yeah.
But sometimes today, and not everyone, but sometimes there's an attitude of, you don't know anything, in the workplace. And I mean, I've gotten let go.
But at what point do you make a decision? You, with all your experience, all your knowledge, being in this field, and also teaching the small business owners, at what point is enough enough? Like,
you have to set the standards. You have to tell them what is required. You have to let them know what the expectations. That's another.
Okay, expectations.
So
is it having a measurable?
It is. It has to be stated. I talk about silent but deadly expectations. So sometimes there is a situation that occurs, and then the employee is brought into the office and say, "Hey, you're not supposed to do that." They go, "Well, I didn't know." Mm-hmm. If they didn't know, I mean, it depends on what the situation is, but I think it's important to even over-communicate. Here's what we are about, here's our values, here's what we stand for, here's what we don't tolerate, right? Mm-hmm. So there's not a question. And again, it varies from company to company, organization to organization. And I think it's important to not set an example, but
a standard?
A standard, but I think you're right that there's a lot of companies that they let too many people get away with too much. And then when they try to make a change, there's all this history of, we let it happen this long.
Right. When does this? I think for me as a leader, right, we have 50 employees from Latin America, Philippines, Asia, Latin America, Philippines, and Europe, and then as well in the United States. And I can see for me as a leader, I take responsibility for everything.
Sure.
That's my natural, like if I get into a car accident, it's my,
sure.
What did I do? What did I do? Oh, you got hit from behind. Like, yeah, but like I was at the red light. I should have never been there.
Sure.
I should have figured out, I should have left 2 minutes earlier. That's kind of the mindset that I've had. And I'm wondering if that mindset helps in certain areas, but also hinders in others. And especially in this world that we're talking about, because when a team member does something that's away from what I think is right, although it may not be documented in our handbook, I say, man, I take responsibility for that situation occurring. And what I found is that my confidants within the organization, they're telling me like, yo, you give people so much leeway because you're putting the blame on yourself,
right?
And not holding the so-and-so responsible for the situation because Andy didn't write it in the handbook or Andy didn't get it written in the handbook.
But are you black and white on that? I mean, is it cut and dry one way or the other? I mean, I think it also is a case-to-case basis. Yes, you're taking full responsibility because it's your company. So anything that happens, you should be aware of it, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's almost impossible to know every single detail at all times from all these different locations around the world, right? And I think it has to do with how you lead and what you set the tone of your leadership, your style, your values. So the company is not just about the end result and the deliverables. It really starts with the mission statement or the values of who is this company.
I just read a book called The Most Successful Small Business in the World by Michael E. Gerber.
Oh yeah, Michael Gerber is great. Yeah.
So Michael Gerber, and I think this is a recent book because I believe he talked about what the government is doing post-pandemic. So I believe this might be a recent book, but don't quote me on that. And in the book, it was talking about starting off with the value system as a way to that when your employees are on their own making decisions on behalf of the business, they have something to revert back to, which is that values and moral beliefs and so on and so forth. Do you agree with that, or are you opposite on that?
No, I agree. And in fact, I should have mentioned, so you attract who you are. But if you don't communicate who you are, so like for example, there's a company called Chick-fil-A. A lot of people know Chick-fil-A, right? Their company statement says nothing about fast food, cooking chicken, serving in a restaurant. Their company value statement, I'm paraphrasing, is something like, our mission is to serve God to the best of our ability every day, the best that we can. What's that got to do with serving chicken?
Nothing.
So when somebody gets hired there, and they are told that both in the written materials, the handbook, in the interview, it would be kind of difficult for somebody who isn't faith-based in some way to sneak in and get hired. And then when something happens, they say, oh, well, I didn't know that. No, yes, you did. Of course you knew it.
Started with that.
Because it's at the very beginning.
Gotcha.
And in fact, my first, the second chapter, or whatever, I use a term called envisionment. And that's about prepare. Instead, a lot of times when people start a company, they think, well, what do we need? Well, we need a building. We need, so here you need a studio, you need lights and camera, you need a videographer, you need sound system, you need all this equipment, you need a receptionist, all those things. I'm going to open this media company. Okay. Those are the tangibles. Those are like the restaurant. You got to build it out, all those different things.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do different? How is your company going to stand apart from everybody else in your industry? And I think it's what you were just saying, is starting with those values before you even build it out, even before you go look for the venue, the location, even before you start talking about hiring people. But most people don't do that. Most
they do the
business
opposite.
owners, they do, okay, well, we're going to start I'm going to start a tool company. So we got to go and do this, and this. But you really do attract who you are. And if that is done backwards, then you end up having people that are entrenched in the company, that many of the people in the organization know that these people are disruptors in the bad way. Disruptor used to be a bad word.
Yeah,
Today
now
it's like,
it's
whoa,
cool.
I'm a disruptor.
It's cool.
Well, when I was in high school, I was called a disruptor, but it was because I was acting out in class. Not because I was so smart and intelligent and cutting edge.
So I love what you're sharing, because now it gives light. Instead of saying, hey, focus on the customers, focus on the team that's dealing with the customers, and it starts with the leader versus, the customers, I'm getting the wrong customers, or so on and so forth. It starts with the leader being very clear on what your mission statement is, right?
Yep.
And being very clear, and then explaining that to your group of team members, and then starting with the team members, then go out to the customers. I love that. As we wrap up, what got you into this world in the first place? The customer experience, speaking, branding, marketing, publicity. Like, what got you into this world?
It took quite a while. I spent many years overseas, and I thought I was going to be in service in that capacity. Working, I lived in the Philippines for many years.
Yeah, he told me.
Yeah. And I thought I was going to be working in service in that way. When I came back to the United States, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had some interest in acting and communications, but I always found myself working in hotels or restaurants. And then after a period of time, and so I would say I wasn't a fully engaged employee. I wasn't disengaged, but I wasn't like, woohoo. And then I started to shift, and I started working with Wolfgang Puck, who is known as really the original celebrity chef. But he was also known not just for his food, but he's known for his standards of service. And that's when I started to pay attention, to learn what does it mean to deliver 5-star customer service in a restaurant setting, in a hotel, in a resort setting. And I became a student, right? And then after that, I moved to another location in the U.S. and worked with some other organizations that I felt like they didn't really have the same values as I had experienced there. And they would say things like, oh, well, we don't do that here, or they basically, without saying it, would say, well, service is not that important, it's the food's important, and I don't know what else. And so I had this idea that there's a disconnect, and I would like to share my insights and learn from other people. And that's when I started writing the first book, and it took me 6 years. I felt like in order for me to have any value or authority to speak, I need to put it in text, a book first.
Like that.
Because I could call up a company and say, hey, my name's Christoff. I have a passion for customer service. Can I help your company? You're who? You're what? What do you mean? Nobody's ever heard of you. What do you mean? But if I say, or I have somebody else say, hey, you need to meet Christoff J. Weihmann. He's the author of Getting to Wow. Everybody wins with 5-star service. Even if they've never read the book,
they understand what it's about.
It's opened the door.
Yeah.
Right? And so since then, we've served thousands of industry professionals, and my mission is really to empower service professionals of all industries to deliver the wow.
I love that.
Really create that 5-star customer experience.
How do people get access and get their copy of the books? Either the customer experience or Get Into the Wow?
Both are on Amazon, of course, and they're also available on my website, which is just my name, ChristoffJWeihmann.com.
Hey, Christoff, thank you so much for being on the show, my brother.
I love it. You. Thank you. And again, we'll end with, now I am grateful for the time that we have had, and
he brought the gratitude.
I have a gift for you. It's your own
for
gratitude
me?
bell.
Oh, I love that. Look at this. This is dope.
That's yours.
This is dope, man. People on the episode gonna be jealous. I'm bringing the gratitude. Hey, man, appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right.
God bless you for all you're doing.
Likewise.
Tune in every week to discover new stories, new businesses, and new ideas. Business Owner Spotlight by AudateMedia.